So this photo was taken back in some award ceremony several years ago, back before there was COVID, and back when we could still sort of hang out and socialize and get together, and without fear of any kind of blowback or whatever. This is sort of taken back when Brad Pitt actually was still married to Angelina Jolie. When Kevin Spacey, I think this is pre-allegations of sexual misconduct. I think for Ellen, it was also pre-allegations of misconduct of how she treated her employees and stuff back when she was still sort of funny. There's J-Law. I think this is right after, maybe after that spectacular movie. Oh God, really? I can't think of it right now. Dumb. Anyway, Mockingbird, whatever. I love that series, and I can't think of it right now. I just drew a complete blank. Anyway, right after that series, and Bradley Cooper is in it also. And it looks like Bradley Cooper is actually taking the photo, which would make it a selfie, right? He's taking a picture of himself, and other people are included. Now, back before, you'll notice the photo can only go as far, or the camera can only go as far as his arms can push out, or as far as his arms can extend. So he's sort of limited in who he can put in this photo. Especially given the fact that a lot of wide angle stuff wasn't really around a couple years back, and now it's more prevalent. But yeah, he's trying to get everybody in the shot and using his arms and cutting some people off. As you can see, J-Law has got some creeper right on her head over there, and he's cut off sort of two right down his nose and eye. But if we think about selfies, we've all taken a picture of ourselves at one point in time, either to show a friend what our clothing looks like, or to just photograph ourselves to see how our hair looked, or God, you name it, right? I mean, we've come from it being really difficult to photograph yourself. You need a timer and a tripod and a camera, and it shot film. You had to frickin' develop it. I mean, it was super complicated documenting yourself. These days, you can create a selfie in like 2 seconds, right? And what is a selfie? It's an image of oneself taken by oneself using a digital camera, especially for posting on social networks. Now, the important part of this whole selfie thing is that it's of you, which is taken for granted, sort of, right? But it's taken by you. So if somebody else takes the photo, just FYI, they own the photo. Even if it's on your camera or your gear, if somebody else pushes the button, they're known to have created the photo and be the author of the work. So don't let anybody else take a picture of you that you don't want them owning, right? If you take the picture yourself, you own it. Somebody else does, they own it. Okay? Now, selfies, this is my friend Jason. He lives in Palm Springs. Why was he taking this photo? Have you ever guys asked yourselves, like, why do people take the photos they post? Sometimes it's like, wow, that was clearly tragic, and you need to delete that, right? Because that was poor taste, bad judgment. And a lot of times celebrities or people, they try to delete their tweets or delete their selfies or their posts if they are controversial. A lot of times it doesn't work because other people screenshot the stuff and still have it, and the internet still has it also backed up in caches. So it doesn't always work, right, to delete your items. But if we look at Jason here, what's the purpose of this photo? Why do we shoot selfies? Like, why do we even take them? And I'm sure if we had a class discussion right now, you guys would be completely dead silent, and nobody would offer any kind of comments at all as to why they take selfies on the daily, right? So here, this caption from Kaylin is, "This is a slight flex that I did my own nails," right? So she thought she looked good. She thought her nails looked good, so she wanted to put it out there to her friends and people who know her. That's super cool. I mean, that's one reason we take selfies, right? Or take pictures of ourselves to sort of show off some things we've done, or show off that we're having a good hair day, or just document the fact that we liked our nails that day and we post it, right? Or we post it for friends. Like, we want our friends to see that we're having fun. We want them to know that we remember them, that we're thinking about them. And what better way to do that than to post a shot of the two of you or you and your friends and post it, right? And as in terms of a memory, to share with them how you value their friendship. That's another reason you take a selfie with somebody or yourself. Or maybe you just like your clothes and you think your outfit looks really cool. And you're like, dude, I need to shoot this because I think it looks really cool, and I want everybody else to know they can't see me that I'm dressed how I'm dressed today. I want them to know how cool I'm dressed, right? Because I mean, how would DJ Blunts know who saw her today? Like, it may be just her coworkers, so it could be just like 5 or 6 people. And why waste an amazing outfit like this on 5 or 6 people when you can show it to hundreds and hundreds of people, or possibly thousands that she wants to show it to, right? Or you can do this. Take a picture, let everybody know where you are, let everybody know you're having a great time, and again, with your friends, let them see that you're having a good time, and you're shouting out a memory of you two, and yeah, right. So here we have another selfie from this gal, and what is this selfie about? Like, I mean, I'm not sure. I'm having a hard time figure out what this is about, like what the purpose of the selfie is. She's at a desk, or she's at some granite countertop. It's some sort of a nondescript room, but what's the selfie about? I mean, I would love to hear you guys' opinions on what she's trying to do or what this is about. Is she documenting herself that day? And if she is, why is she putting this on social media? Like, why would you put a shot of yourself on social media? If there's nothing to it, or there's no purpose behind it. There's got to be a purpose behind some of these posts, and I encourage you guys to think about why you post stuff, and why the people you follow, or why some of the people you sees their posts, why they post the things they do. Like, what's the motivation behind it? And there's not always motivation, right? This gal here took a break from Instagram, and she wants everybody to know she's back. And is asking questions about social media vacays. Like, I mean, if you're overwhelmed with Instagram and social media, maybe she's just trying to let people know that it's okay to do that, right? But again, if you are taking a break from social media, but you come back and put yourself on social media, asking the question if it's okay to take a break, or maybe we need months off or vacations from it, it seems like she might need another vacation pretty soon. Yeah. So Kim Kardashian is the queen of selfies. She has been for some time. She even published a book about selfies, right? And consequently enough, she named the book Selfish. I went to Barnes & Noble, saw the book, and mostly it was just sort of trashy selfies and some nudes she shot of herself that never made it to Instagram, that were deleted or censored. And I think that was the hype for the book. I'm not sure, but there was really nothing inside of it that was really amazing or cool in terms of photography or otherwise. And it didn't really let you know hardly anything about her. Now, in her book, she has some tips on taking a selfie, and make sure the light's amazing is number one. And amazing is a very general description of light. And I'm not sure even what she's talking about. Would love to know what she considers amazing light. I think you guys have a greater understanding of light at this point than Kim does. But I think she's spot on when she says make sure you have good light, right? And we know stuff a little bit different about that. Now, when she's talking about chin down, camera up, if you have your chin up and your camera lower and shooting up at you, you tend to get your neck, because you can only photograph yourself arm's length, and you'll have a gigantic neck and no chin. So she's right when she says keep your chin down and your camera angle up, because this makes your chin look a little sharper and have a more chiseled jawline. Work the duck face. This was one of her tips. I'm not even going to address this. This is so stupid. So we're going to move on. Crop to perfection. Yeah, cropping is important too, and I like nice horizontal lines and symmetry and good composition. And I almost think that's what she meant when she was talking about cropping, was more about composition and how to compose the photo. So let's just call this crop. We're going to call it compose to perfection and have good composition. Get a digital camera. Okay, nobody does this with their digital camera. They're almost too heavy to hold like this and point at yourselves. Even the flippin' mirrorless ones are really rough to focus and shoot like this. So I think this photo is staged, and I'm sure, I'm not sure what this is about, right? But clearly she doesn't shoot half this stuff herself. So selfies and just photographing yourself has come such a long way that they now sell loads and loads of accessories like little lighting, ring flashes and ring lights to attach to your phones, because they know you're going to photograph yourself, because now you have a camera in your hand to do so, and it doesn't cost anything. There's no film costs or anything, right? So you can sit here and shoot hundreds and hundreds of shots a day until you get the one you want. And then there's attachments for you to make it look even better and more polished. So you'll always look good and you always have that good lighting. There's an entire now market that's been created for people who take pictures of themselves on specifically cell phones, smartphones, right? And nobody would have imagined that that's what we're going to be doing with these things. In fact, this photographer here, Rankin, gave these gals, these teens, I think they're 13 to 15, we'll see in a minute, he gave them cell phones and then said, edit this as you'd like to see your own face, and edit it how you think that would look good, right? So if you'll notice what they did to themselves is, yeah, I get the pink cheeks, yeah, I get the lightened eyes, yeah, I get they took their freckles down a little bit and fixed acne, I get that the lips look a little more pronounced and more full, but there's one thing that really bothers me, and this is very smart. It was very smartphone specific, and it's actually shooting selfies with a smartphone close to your face created what's called distortion. A wide-angle lens has some amount of distortion in it, especially the closer to the subject it gets. So if you took that phone and shot from far away, you might not have tons of distortion. But if you take that phone and bring it close to your face, the closer you get, the more distortion happens. And the distortion I'm talking about is wide-angle distortion. And what this does is it pushes your nose toward camera, pushes your cheeks and the ears back away from the camera, and sort of separates the two, okay? It increases the distance between your nose and sort of your cheeks and jawline and pushes it back. Your forehead will appear larger, your chin will appear smaller and thinner. This is wide-angle distortion. And if you'll look, each of these girls has seen so many photos of themselves with a wide-angle camera, i.e. a smartphone, and seen this trend all over the place, all over social media, that now what they're doing is they're trying to make their faces look like they're distorted from a wide-angle lens. They're not happy with the photo on the left. They think the photo on the right looks more becoming and more beautiful. And again, look, all their lips are full, all their chins are really sharp, all their foreheads are elongated and pronounced, and their nose is closer to camera and pinched, and their cheeks are farther back from the camera. Look at this girl right here. This is an insane interpretation of this. Like, this is crazy. She looks so much different. Her ears are pushed back. Her forehead is pronounced. Her chin is really sharp. Her cheekbones are pushed back from her nose. It's crazy. So smartphones have really affected how we view our bodies and how we see our faces. We no longer like our faces straight on as they are, right? We don't like them as they're normally photographed. We want them to look as if they were photographed with a wide angle, which is with a smartphone close to your face. It's wide angle distortion. So I don't think that when they first designed smartphones, I don't think that they were designed to photograph you. I think they were designed to photograph the world around you. But people started turning them on themselves and photographing themselves. The problem was that wide-angle lens wasn't meant to be photographed and used on a subject at arm's length, right? From like 2 or 3 feet away. It was meant to photograph the world around you, where you could sort of distance yourself and not have wide-angle distortion. These are some important terms, you guys. I want to sort of come into the self-portrait and selfie sort of talk. And one of them is semiotics, and that is the study of signs or symbols and their use or interpretation. Basically, you guys, you're looking for symbols or signs in an image to determine what the image is trying to say, right? You're trying to decode it with the field of semiotics and trying to determine like what things mean based on what symbols mean culturally and historically around us. Connotations are common associations connected to a sign. They're not private associations that only one individual might have, but associations and references that are shared by larger cultures or groups. Like when you see a cross, Most Christian cultures or groups think of the crucifixion, right? Or Christianity. Others may not. I think that's a little more broad now. If you see some people, like, for instance, gang signs. If you see a gang sign, not that I'm in a gang or know a whole lot about gangs, I know a little bit. But if you throw up a gang sign in a photo, most of us won't know what that gang sign means, right? Those are private associations that only one individual or very small groups might have. We're talking about connotations, meaning the world in general knows what this is, okay? There's context collision, okay? Which is when you have different personalities or representations of yourself that you put out there on social media, and sometimes those representations collide. Like maybe let's say your Instagram feed and your Facebook feed, or your Snapchat feed and your Instagram feed. If they cross over, is there a collision? Do they still represent the same person? Or do you use various platforms for various parts of yourself? Now, self-representation is what we're going to get to today. And we're going to talk about the self-portrait and how self-portraits represent you. Self-representation in social media includes visual, written, and quantitative, right? So the visual self-representation includes like selfies, images, or icons, but also other images and icons that we use to express ourselves. Written self-representation are like blogs or online diaries, and written status updates and captions. And quantified self-representation are like step counting, health metrics, and how apps represent our lives through numbers and graphs. So this image right here of Kendall Jenner. Now looking at it, what do you guys think? This was the most liked photo of 2015. Crazy, right? Well, not so crazy. There's a lot going on in this photo, right? There are a lot of signs, or there's a lot of semiotics in this photo that we can look at to see how she represents herself, okay? This also could be considered a presentation, and we'll talk about that in a second. So this is Kendall Jenner. This is the most liked photo of 2015. What are the signs in this photo, right? Look at all the things that she's using as a sign. And there's like several. Well, number one, there's hair, right? That's a sign. Number two, her eyes are closed. Number three, it looks like she's wearing sort of a wedding dress that's white. Number four, her pose, her eyes closed and her hands across her chest or something also. So let's talk a little bit about what this sort of means, what these semiotics are we're picking up. And I'm sure this was not the most liked photo in 2015 simply because of these things. I think these, though, contributed to more of a sophisticated photo. Also, this is not a self-portrait because unless she used a timer, somebody else took this photo of her, okay, and helped her style her hair. I get that. She may have put this photo on a timer, but if somebody else shot this photo, it's theirs, okay? So what are the signs? Well, the hearts that her hair has been shaped into connotate love, right? The white lacy dress signifies a bride. The traditional white wedding dress is white because white stands for innocence in Western culture. Jenner is laid out like a corpse with her hands folded as is traditional Western funerals, and her eyes are closed. Now, it sort of has it's sort of a shout out to Ophelia, the girl who loved Hamlet, right? The choice of a black heart rotated sideways rather than the far more common red heart may suggest that though the image is about love, it is a darker, more complicated love, right? And that's if you look down at her caption where she wrote a little sideways heart. Now those are, we got into that, and it may have been, oh, well, Kendall just wanted to have a cute picture of herself in this dress. But she went into some sort of, she went in a little deeper than just a cute picture in her dress. If she just wanted a cute picture in her dress, she could have stood in front of a mirror and shot a cute picture with good lighting of her dress and hair. But her hair is shaped into hearts. She looks like she's closed her eyes and has this pose or posture of somebody that's sort of dead, right? She's got a white wedding dress on. I mean, if any of you have seen the pictures of Ophelia, this has a very, very strong likeness to some of the Ophelia images of Ophelia dead in the water. Her hair is floating on the surface. So that's sort of self-representation, you guys, and some of the semiotics that she put out, some of the signs that we can pick up as almost like breadcrumbs that lead us to the ultimate meaning of what she's trying to get at here, right? Now, presentation is different than representation. So presentation, it focuses less on its status as a set of signs, and the more on the role that Kendall was performing when posting this image. So if to get at why this presentation was like this, if you interviewed her, you might ask her questions like, who is this image intended for? What were the motivations for sharing this image? When and where it was posted, and all kinds of stuff like that, right? So that's presentation. It's when you're acting it out as almost like an actor with something else behind it, versus self-representation, where you represent yourself. So this is an example, you guys, of, as I said, there's several different types of self-representation. One is visuals, one is writing, okay? And the last one's quantitative. But this is an example of writing as a self-representation. And these are examples of a couple blogs where a lot of people write things down and keep track of themselves and share things in their life with you. This is self-representation, and this is in its form, this is writing, right? Just like the caption that Kendall Jenner wrote, the little black heart on the side, that was more semiotics and a symbol. But those captions, when they're longer and they have words in them, are also ways we self-represent, okay? So there's some blogs that talk a little bit about themselves and their lives and what they like. Again, that's all self-representation, and it's using writing to self-represent. Now, there's also quantified self-representation, which talks about numbers. In one of my last classes a couple years ago, I took a gal named Jessica. I haven't done this since because it really embarrassed her, but we're still good friends, so no big deal. But what I did is I creeped her Instagram, and I looked to see like how her Instagram broke out in terms of like numbers. And so what I did is I counted every single post, and then I found brackets of categories that I saw that the images fell into, and then I went and tallied up how many images she had in each category. So I came up with food, animals, just Jessica by herself, friends, events, boyfriend and Jessica, who I assume was her boyfriend, family, other, and then landscapes. Now, if we look, I charted this and put this in a graph for her, so she and her classmates could see where she spent most of her time and how the numbers played out, right? If we're going to represent Jessica in a quantitative manner, we need some numbers. Well, these are the numbers that Jessica's Instagram feed produced in terms of the kinds of posts she makes and the quantity, or the kinds and how many of that kind, right? So just of Jessica, you can see, you guys, the largest group here is by far just her. So she had 87 posts of just herself. The second largest one, it looks like, her friends. So Jessica and friends are super important. I think the next largest one was food. So it goes Jessica, friends, and food. And then I think there was another category, which was pretty much everything else. And then we got down to landscapes, got down to events, animals, and just before family, which only had 8 posts, her boyfriend comes in at a whopping 10 posts. So out of 295 posts or so, Jessica had 87, and she and her boyfriend had 10. And I was like, wow, you appear to have like this huge emphasis on you, and the emphasis on your boyfriend and your family that show up in your feed are very, very small. She was laughing. It was super funny. We joked about it. So don't like you guys light me up and think I'm a creeper person, or just super mean. It was just sort of in fun, right? But yeah, this is sort of a quantitative analysis of your social media, of your posts, okay? Regardless of what you're trying to go for in each individual post, this is a quantitative self-representation. We also have you probably might not even never think of this, but when Spotify comes up, it goes, yeah, your 1 year Spotify dashboard, your 2 year whatever. It gives you guys like this quantitative analysis of you and your listening and your music. And you may not have been self-consciously or consciously tracking this. The app does it for you. You may not have even known the app was tracking this. It does it for you, right? It's taken in quantitative numbers on you also. But these are just sort of interesting things that define you as a human being especially as it relates to what the app is about, which here the app's about music, right? So it's got a quantitative analysis on your music tastes. So as humans, we're being broken up into all kinds of quantitative analysis. Here, the Facebook keeps track of all your stuff, and 2 years ago to the day, it'll say where you were. 5 years ago to the day, 10-year memories, right? It's charting and collecting our memories and then pushing them back to us and letting them see those. So it's keeping this quantitative analysis of where we were and what we were doing years and years out. This is the worst thing I hate, right? Is when it lets me know my steps. And I've like done no steps, right, on Monday or Saturday. God, if you guys were to see my Corona steps, I think I've taken 30 steps a day. This is ridiculous. I hardly step at all. I don't even have my phone on me inside the house. So I probably have like 2 steps. I get up, grab my phone, check it, and then I put my phone down and I have like no more steps that day. I literally am the worst right now, and it's making me feel awful about how few steps I take. Okay, so my quantitative self-representation right now is extremely accurate, but it's not super fun. Okay, so all self-representation, you guys, acts as both a mirror and a veil. Okay, so every time you represent yourself, wherever you do, the mirror reflects who you're trying to reflect yourself, right? And show who you are and what you're doing, but it also acts as a veil, meaning you have a way of hiding some things you don't want to be shown. So it acts sort of in both ways. Now, a self-portrait, y'all, is different than a selfie. A self-portrait is still a portrait of an artist produced or created by that artist, but it's slightly different. Okay, we're going to get into a little bit of how different it is based on the semiotics. Now, the image we saw of Kendall Jenner, if she had taken that photo, that seems more like a self-portrait. Whereas the photo of Kaylin, who's showing us her nails, that is more of a selfie, right? When you just look good and you take a picture of your face, that's probably more of a selfie. So this here, you guys, this is one of the very first self-portraits, right? And who is this? Well, his name is Parmigianino. Parmigianino is an Italian name, okay? And it comes from Parmesan, right? And then they add an ino on it, which means little Parmesan. And we're going to call this guy Little Parm, okay? So this is him. He was a painter in 1524. He did this, and what he did is he photographed himself. He painted himself in a convex mirror because he needed a portfolio, right? So he needed a portfolio to show how good he was in terms of painting. So he did himself, and then he'd show this little painting to other people in hopes of getting work. So this was a self-portrait, okay, done in 1524. Here's the first self-portrait of a photographer, and it's called Self-Portrait of a Drowned Man. Now, if you guys think about this, you know the story a little bit. You don't know this guy, but you know the context of the story. And the context is this. Hippolyte, his name's Hippolyte Bayard, okay? And Hippolyte, we'll call him Hippolyte. Actually, we're going to call him Hip, because I don't even like the sound of Hippolyte. Hip was a photographer around the same time, exactly the same time as Daguerre, okay? And if you remember from our small history lesson, there was Louis Daguerre, who was French, and then there was William Talbot, who was an Englishman. William Talbot created the calotype. Louis Daguerre created the daguerreotype, okay, on metal. Now, this was, he invented this first direct photograph process. So the story goes like this. After inventing his direct positive photographic process, Hip was invented by one Francis Arago, who convinced him, using who knows what logic, to postpone making an announcement of his find to the French Academy of Sciences. As it turned out, Francois Arago was a close personal pal of another dude, who shortly thereafter made his own presentation to the members of the Academy of Sciences by the name of Louis Daguerre. Yeah, Louis Daguerre, okay, was a friend of this guy's who convinced Hip, who is shown here in his drowning photograph, not to make a presentation to the Academy of Sciences, right? Because he knew his buddy Louis Daguerre was going to go present to them. So Louis Daguerre By the time Hip finally did present to the Academy, they had already made a substantial investment in Daguerre and his process. So, gosh, it was awful. So Hip got paid this piddling sum for his troubles of years of trying to like develop this, and they thought his process was sort of inferior and basically essentially useless after they'd given up all their funding and stuff to Daguerre. This self-portrait of a drowned man was Hip's protest. So it wasn't as metaphorically subtle a protest as it would seem at first glance either, right? Because on the back, written in third person, is his suicide note, in which he states his grievance rather explicitly. Okay, he writes, "The corpse which you see here is that of M. Hip Bayard, inventor of the process that has just been shown to you. As far as I know, this indefatigable experimenter has been occupied for about 3 years with this discovery. The government, which has been only too generous to Monsieur Daguerre, has said it can do nothing for Monsieur Bayard, and the poor wretch has drowned himself. Oh, the vagaries of human life! He has been at the morgue for several days, and no one has recognized or claimed him. Ladies and gentlemen, you'd better pass along for fear of offending your sense of smell, for as you can observe, the face and hands of the gentleman are beginning to decay." Super dramatic, right? This might be, you guys, the first instance of photographic fakery. It's probably the first photographic practical joke, and it's probably the first use of photography as propaganda or a protest. Yeah, so I feel bad for this guy. This is a self-portrait of a drowned man. He did it in protest, sort of in jest, and he was pissed off, right? But the self-portrait here does not look like a selfie. And even if it's on a photographic level, a photographic process, we leave that aside, that this is an old historic photo and photo process, it's still not set up like a selfie. Okay, they're different characteristics. This portrait Van Gogh, right, shows that painters and people have been doing selfies forever. I mean self-portraits, right? So here's Rembrandt. He did himself a self-portrait. They've been painting and photographing themselves, you guys, forever. Now, Cindy Sherman is a self-portraitist. All she does is do portraits of herself. Okay, and what she does this photo series, you guys, and most of her photo series are trying to call attention to stereotypes of women in films, television, and magazines. Okay, so she's trying to show you guys that women are stereotyped in certain ways, and she's donned clothing or makeup or styles and props to show you that these are some of the ways we look at women and stereotypes. So if you look at this image, this almost looks a little bit like, I don't know, like that image we just saw up of Kendall Jenner, right? Kendall Jenner's was in 2015. This image was taken back late 1990s-ish time. I'd have to check the date, you guys. But this is Cindy Sherman, and she photographed herself laying down. It's called Untitled 96. It's of a lovelorn woman. She's clutching a personal ad. It sold for $3.89 million. Okay. It made at Christie's, it made it the most expensive photograph at the time ever paid for a photograph of a person. A self-portrait. Crazy, right? And portrait. Nuts. So there's semiotics going on here, right? Meaning there are symbols or signs of things. And in Cindy Sherman's own words, this is what she wanted us to get out of this. In content, I wanted a man opening up the magazine suddenly look at me with an expectation of something lascivious and then feel like the violator that they would be. Looking at this woman who is perhaps a victim, I didn't think of them as victims at the time, but I suppose obviously I'm trying to make someone feel bad for having a certain expectation. And what she was doing was making it seem like this was a centerfold. It was laid out and shot like a centerfold. And she wanted men who look at nude magazines and porn, specifically magazines at the time where they had centerfolds that would pull out and it'd be the very, very center image. She wanted them to open it and see this and then sort of feel badly that it was a younger girl that they were looking at. And that the expectation of seeing like a nude woman and then seeing this young girl sort of clothed would make them feel sort of bad or have some sort of reaction and have some sort of cultural meaning, right? No, this wasn't in a nude magazine, but that's sort of what she was going for in terms of like trying to get people to react. So yeah, this is a self-portrait. This looks nothing like a selfie, and the reason it's sort of a self-portrait and not a selfie is because selfies generally have a different message and a different reason for being. They have different reasons for trying to have self-representation than do self-portraits. Okay, so this is Brooke Shaden. Brooke Shaden is a self-portraitist, and this is some of her work. She has this beautiful work. And she has these ideas and these sort of fantasy sort of roles she plays. All of her stuff are obviously her because it's self-portrait. She shoots with a timer and she uses heavy uses of editing in Photoshop. But this would not, and I know you guys in your heads as you're looking at this wouldn't seem to be a selfie. This would seem to you probably to be more of a self-portrait. She's not showing this, putting this image out as, hey friends, let's get together. She's not putting this image out of, check out how cute I am in this dress. Right? It's a little more than this. She's not documenting her life because no one freaking documents their life floating out of a hole. So the reasons we use a selfie or shoot selfies are not the reasons we shoot self-portraits. And these are some of her self-portraits. She shot all of these, right? Heavy use of like imagery and metaphor of being like trapped or dying or being buried or who knows what, right? She's heavily use of props. Here she's coming out of it. Look what looks like a moth or like wings or some sort of cocoon. Here, I have no idea what's going on. Looks like she's being groped or pulled or pushed in a lot of different directions. Or maybe she's being revered. So these are some of her videos, you guys, and I'll let you like look at these as you'd like. You can Google and look up YouTube. On YouTube, you can Google her, look up on YouTube, Brooke Shaden, and she'll talk to you a little bit about maybe some of her behind the scenes. You can check out some of those videos if you'd like to get a little more idea on how she does it if you're interested in Brooke. She's got one here that was a long time ago when she was first starting out, before she was super popular, before she's lectured all around the world on self-portraiture. She has a little video on how she did it. You guys can totally like look at this on YouTube. Also, I'm not gonna include it here in the lecture, but go ahead and check her out if you guys would like. It's super interesting. I mean, it's really great work she does, and yeah, so check her out. So this is a self-portrait series, and usually when we do self-portraits and work with self-portraiture, we have like themes or a series we'll do. And this image here is, these are, it's where this Polish photographer, she's combined loads and loads of different animals and stuff, and what do you call it? Animals and Well, and fishes and reptiles and all kinds of other stuff. She's a Hungarian artist, you guys, or Hungarian photographer. And I honestly wouldn't even know what she looked like if it weren't for this image right here that she did a series with, because she's always contorting her face and doing different stuff with it. So I never know what the freak she looks like. If you want to go look her up, her name's Flora Borsi, Floraborsi, Flora Borsi, and she does great, really cool, interesting self-portraits. So here, this is her series called Animade or Animide, and she's combining animals with their eyes to her, and she does her face, her makeup and stuff, and it has props that make her look like the animals she's trying to represent. And these images, you guys, are freaking fascinating. Like, Flora is amazing. Like, I think her series, all of her series are beautiful and really well done. Use of Photoshop and some of the stuff she does where her expressions look like scared rabbits, how she ratted her hair and frayed it and stuff. I mean, all of these are her. So now you know when I said I don't know what the heck she looks like unless I found that one image. I don't even know what the woman looks like. And I actually didn't know this was her. I thought she was using various models and putting snakes and fish and stuff on them. I didn't know this was all her. So you can see, like Cindy Sherman, who uses high production value and super sophisticated, what in terms of clothing and props and makeup. Here, Flora has pushed the boundaries of Photoshop and props and editing and color grading and is bringing everything together and into this beautiful series. Like, absolutely fantastic. Look at the direction of light. Even the catch lights match. Right? On the squirrel, like they do in her eye, both eyes are almost identical there. Same thing here. Light direction's the same. Fantastic, right? So it makes me believe that she photographed these at the same time, or photographed these in the same light, and then dropped them and composited them in. But it looks like she may have had just happened to have what is that bird called? Pelican? No. A flamingo. She just happened to have a flamingo, right? And painted it, made it look like her, or made it look like, made the beak look a certain way and stuff, and then just put that up on her face and photographed it like that. But however she did it, it's freaking really interesting and cool. And it probably wouldn't be considered a selfie. Same with this one, right? Probably not considered a selfie. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Super interesting. This is one of my favorites. I like how the dog's nose sort of intersects with her nose, and it makes this sort of shape on her face. But the shapes and stuff are fantastic that she did. So here's a self-portrait I did, okay, back when I was in grad school. Don't look at this very long. We're not going to look at that very long. So we're going to see some of these. So I had to do a series in grad school, and I chose to do various representations of myself. Like, let's say, if I were these people, what happened if I were these people and they got arrested, right? So this is my inner rocker who got arrested. That's his name, Axel Thorne. He's 6'2", LAPD. I went and found a cheap, stupid little, what is it called? Chalkboard, right? And found some magnetic letters and put them on there and shot this in my little studio down at Alameda, right? Here's my other one. This is Clayton Kent, Dayton Police Department. He's 5'2". Again, more props. I found a mustache to use. Found some glasses, etc. Did my hair, right? Same thing, Lester Pond. There's his date. That's Ogden Police in Utah. He was a farmer. This is New York. Mickey O'Hare, 6'5", 7/13/84. He's flipping the police off as he should, right? And that's my series, you guys. That was my series for a self-portrait series that I did, right? Where I was trying to save some stuff. This is also part of a self-portrait series I did where I envisioned myself as a drug dealer and had an entire story about me dealing drugs and being shady. And if you're looking like I don't know how to hold a cigarette, it's because it's true. I don't smoke. Never smoked in my life really, and don't even know what the hell to do with that. So I was just holding it because I thought that would be cool. And yeah, I was going for sort of a Dexter Fight Club type feel on this one. This one here is an image I did in a clown series I do, and that's the clown mask you guys see when I'm on Zoom for classes. You guys will see that. I'm going to be doing it again pretty quick. I'm doing another one. But this is another self-portrait series I did, okay, where I use masks and props and things to bring the level of sophistication up just a little bit. Now, if you guys have makeup skills, that's great. If you guys have other skills, dude, use the skills you've got to create a self-portrait that's unique to you. Here's some self-portraits from photographers and some of the stuff they've done. Some of these are a little light on the depth, I think, and are just sort of like pictures of their face because they thought it was sort of cool or thought that was sort of neat. And I'm not sure these are what we're looking for to do for our self-portraits. We're looking for a little more sophistication and use of makeup, props, Photoshop, editing to get sort of a different point across, much like Kendall Jenner, right? This one here doesn't have nearly the impact or the depth that Kendall Jenner had. This one also, right? I don't see a whole lot of depth here in this. He just looks cool. Like, to me, this could be a selfie if it were cropped and dropped in Instagram. Vivian Meyer, she's an old street photographer who's around the 30s and 40s and did really great work. And this is one of her self-portraits, right, where she's using a mirror. But again, there's not a whole lot to in terms of interpretation here, right? I mean, we don't know what Vivian was going for here, other than the fact that she thought maybe the context around her was sort of cool, or maybe the double reflection might be interesting. I'm not sure. We have a Warhol self-portrait, and we have some student self-portraits, okay? This is from Yaxian Pa, and she is a Chinese foreign exchange student that she did. She did some stuff that I thought was really interesting with candles and light. And there was a cultural context to this, you guys, that our class completely missed because we're not Chinese. Okay, some of the symbols she was laying down for her semiotics didn't match some of the symbols that we have in America. So I missed some of this stuff entirely, right? Here's a self-portrait. Not sure this one has a ton of stuff to go off of, but there is a story here, and there's some context in the story, and I like that a lot. This is graphic manipulation, but it's got some forest and trees and nature in it, and it's got her nude body, and I think that's actually beautiful. I think that's a fantastic thing to do, and it's a little more artistic and way more shows more self-representation than a selfie, right? This one here is a little light on maybe some of the some depth here of what we could like figure out and what was going on with her. She said it was about mental illness, which I totally get now. Yeah, and it's really super interesting when she started talking a little bit about it. But again, there weren't a whole lot of signs for us to pick up on that, and we had to actually ask her what was going on. Okay. And this is the last image. This is by one of my former students, Nathaniel. And he's sitting nude in a chair out in the world, right? With a mirrored up to himself of him in a suit. And sort of the dichotomy of this the contrast between the guy in the suit and him nude. He thought, he's out in the world, out in the public for everybody to see. And what he sees of himself is a person in a suit that's super, that's going places and, whatever, but everybody else sees him as he truly is, without the context of his own self-worth and self-confidence. They see him as a different person, and he fears that they see him as just some, basic guy with not a whole lot going on. So he feels like that they don't have the idea in their head of his success, of what he thinks how he's going to be successful, that he has. So the mirror is representing his success and who he thinks he is, and the nude body, it represents, he says, where people could just sort of see him, and that's all they got. That's all they see him as, just this person with with not a whole lot going on, apparently.